have Seven Hills, so if any of you guys live in that area, I'm your representative. I'm sorry.
Your Enterprise.
Yeah, unincorporated Clark County Enterprise. Yeah, but I do have a little bit of Henderson. So if you're in the city of Las Vegas, you're not in my district. But that's me. My entire career has always been both in public service and in housing. So I started doing title and escrow in California when I still lived there, and then I moved over to Nevada to go to UNLV and pursue a degree in history, and I ended up in real estate. So I got my history degree from UNLV, and while I was there, I started interning for our United States Senator, and they brought me on as staff before I graduated, so I stayed because I knew that that's the route I wanted to go in. I knew that public service was really where my passion is, but I love real estate. Like, those are my two passions, and I'm very fortunate that I get to do both. And so I oversaw housing for our United States Senator here in the state, and then went over to the Attorney General's program. When they sued all the banks during the national mortgage settlement, ours was one of the two attorneys generals who used the money to create a housing program. All of the other states put that money in their general fund. So they created a housing program, and I went over to be the program director for that. And then right before I got ready to run in 2014, I moved back over to the private sector. And as soon as I was in the private sector, I was like, oh my God, I miss public service. And then I actually ran a lot sooner than I thought I was going to, just because I missed public service. And now I'm very fortunate that I work for a very supportive company that lets me do both. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So again, you guys are getting copies of all of this. This is actually a picture of our state legislature. It's in Carson City. So the Nevada Assembly's on this side, the state Senate's on that side. Right next to this building is the Nevada Supreme Court, and then next to that is the Capitol, where the governor and the ALG are. But if you guys ever get a chance to go up there, it's really beautiful. It's like 20 degrees cooler, which is nice. And it's like 20 minutes from Lake Tahoe, so you can't miss that. But okay, and so what I usually do when I come back, our state government we're a citizens legislature, which means we're not a full-time state legislature. So we're only in session once every 2 years for 120 consecutive days. That includes like weekends. So only once every 2 years do we actually work on the state's budget, do we actually hear bills and pass bills and create laws that impact our state. So if something goes kind of rogue, we have to wait 2 years to go back into our 120-day session to fix it. When I first got elected in 2016, I served to 2017, and when I came back, I started doing this just because I am someone from the industry. I was like, I need to bring back all of the information that I learned, or policies that are new that impact real estate, or things that are going to be changing in real estate, so that you guys have it before anybody else, and so that you're aware right away of all of the laws that pass that impact our industry. So this is the third time I've come back from the legislative session, and the third time I'm doing legislative updates. So if you guys have any questions, know that you're getting this, and my contact information's on there. And then also there's links to every single bill that we're going to cover on each slide. But I'm just going to go in numerical order of the bills, and we're going to start with the Assembly bills first and then go to the Senate bills. But first bill we're going to cover is Assembly Bill 237, which is a bill that I actually carried. And how many of you have been in the industry for at least 3 years? Okay, great. So then you'll know what I'm talking about here. For people who are new, it was a nightmare what HOAs used to charge when it came to resale packages, demands, rushes, and the timelines that we had to adhere to, right? For you guys, for your salvos, and for us in escrow. So in 2019, so 2 years ago during the 2019 legislative session, I introduced Assembly Bill 335. And Assembly Bill 335, I carried with the Nevada Association of Realtors, with Cameo, which is the Association Management Executive Officers, and with the mortgage lenders as well. We all worked on that bill for like 17 months before we actually introduced it. And what Assembly Bill 335 did was it tried to address the major concerns that we were hearing from realtors and from escrow officers before 2019. One, there is no universal fees amongst HOA management companies when it comes to resale packages. Demands, also the NRS, so the Nevada Revised Statute, the language before said if an HOA management company gets a resale package order, they have 10 days to fill it. Everybody in the industry interpreted that different ways. The realtors interpreted that as 10 days, 10 consecutive days. The HOA management companies said, no, that's 10 business days, right? So if you requested something on Friday, they did not count Saturday, Sunday. If Monday was a holiday, they didn't count that. They didn't start the 10 days till Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And then also, the rushes, right? So there was no consistency in what the rush fees were. And also at that time, a regular resale transaction was taking about 44 days, so 45 days to close. Resale packages were only good for 30 days, right? So what does that mean? If you're a seller and you go into escrow and you fall out, or it's a 45-day escrow, you have to pay for that resale package twice. And so this came up because we had it was actually an agent who ended up living in my district, reached out to me and she was just like, oh my God, I have a seller who has an HOA and a master HOA and they had to pay for everything twice. It was like $2,400. So what we did, we actually worked with the management companies. We're like, hey, this is an issue in the industry. How do we address this together? So there was a little give and take. And what we came up with was Assembly Bill 335, which capped resale fees at $185. But the CIC, there was language in there that said the CIC had to come up with regs for them, right? And then we capped demand fees at $160. We also capped rush fees at $100. And then we said the resale package must be turned in 10 calendar days. So we added the word calendar in front of days. So that means if you order that same resale package on Friday and Monday's a holiday, they count Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's 5 days. So now they count those, right? And then we also said the resale package will be good for 90 days. It will no longer expire 30 days. We did that in 2019. Well, as soon as that bill passed, before the governor even signed it into law, we started getting calls from real estate agents saying like, hey, there is these new fees emerging that I've never seen before. What's an inspection fee? We've never seen an inspection fee when it came to like the sale of a home, right? There's this $100 inspection fee. And so I was like, I don't know. And so I just thought like, this is a result of AB 335, right? These HOA management companies are now gonna come up with other fees to kind of make up what we capped. Because some HOA management companies were charging anywhere from $300, $600 for a resale package, and we went down and capped it at $185, right? And so we just assumed, I was like, these must be a result of 335. They're coming up with new fees. So we had to wait 2 years before we came in to make some fixes. And our fix for that was Assembly Bill 237. And again, we worked on this. It was the Nevada Association of Realtors, me, mortgage lenders, and the association management companies. Everything we do, we bring everyone to the table, right, and say like, how do we fix this? Because again, with the association management companies, 90% of them are great actors. There's a few who are gonna be bad actors, right? Or maybe 3%. Like the majority of them are great actors, so we want them at the table since we are gonna be making laws that impact their industry as well.
Is it possible to force them to do all digital?
So
I'm sick of driving around
I've
picking
tried
up
that
these
too.
junk print
Well,
things.
we're gonna get to one of those bills, SB 186, which is a start in the right direction. So what we did was, they had it capped because when they drafted Assembly Bill 335, it said that in order to cap the resale at 185, the CIC, which is the Common Interest Communities Division under the Real Estate Division, had to come up with regs. They hadn't come up with regs yet, so those hadn't been capped. So we had to wait 2 years to come back in and clean it up to say, resale packages are 185, there's no regs that need to be created, like 185 flat. So now those are 185. We also added in language to clarify that when it comes to the resale of a property, associations can no longer charge any fees than those that are outlined in statute. So if it's for the resale of a property, they can only charge the fees that they are allowed to by law, which is the resale package, the demand, the transfer, and the rush. Actually, that was something that we did in 2019 too. We said you can't charge a maintenance fee and a transfer fee, and we capped the transfer fee at $352, and it said you cannot charge it twice to the buyer and the seller. You can only charge it once. You can divide it in half. But so now they are only allowed to charge these 4 fees for the resale of a property, and we added an enforcement mechanism.
So resale 185 max.
Mm-hmm.
Demand
165.
transfer fee up
350. And these are up to, so they can charge less, right? But they can't charge
Right.
more.
to, and then the rush.
Yeah, and then the rush is 100, and they have to give it to you in 3 days.
Okay.
So those were things we did in 2019. AB 237 just cleaned this up. And this is the most important part. I'm in the industry. I've gone and I've signed buyers and sellers, and I've seen like the transfer fees over $400, and I'm like, you can't do this. Like by law, you can't do this, right? We had a HOA management company trying to make us rebuy the resale package, right? So the escrow officer called me and she's like, can you send me that snippet of the law? And I sent it to her and she sent it back where it says, this is good for 90 days. So it's just important to have that information, right?
Right.
And the reason we added this, and again, I would say 99% of the association management companies are good actors, right? But this is I think the most important part. So if you do find that a management company is overcharging one of your clients, right? Because you're there to protect your buyer or seller. You are their industry professional. You're supposed to have all the information, right? They turn to you. You know that they can now file a complaint with the real estate division, the CIC, ombudsman, and they will be assessed a fine of $250, or they have to reimburse your client for what the overcharges were. So, which is really important, I think. And so a lot of the times if you point this out, they'll just correct it, right? Even before your client gets charged the extra.
So this law is in place, Sandra?
Yes, it is.
So we now know what the maximum charges are, and if we see anybody charging more than that, we can say, hey, look at this clause.
Yeah, and if you guys need a copy of that snippet, this is all, you'll see this at the bottom of every slide. This is an actual link to the bill text. You can watch the hearings, you can read the bill. It's fun, I like to watch them. Especially like the short-term rental one, that one might be fun for you guys to watch. But also, if you guys need a copy of the Nevada real estate statute, the actual chapter in law where those are, just email me and I'll snip that over to you guys. Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
So they can either, if they overcharge, they have to either reimburse you or refund you, and if they don't cooperate.
Well, that's what the real estate division will do. And so the real estate division already has finding authority. They can already fine them up to $1,000. But the way that works is they have to send them a notice saying, like, you know, that there was a violation. Then they have to have a hearing first, and then after the hearing, so that can be a lengthy process, right? So we wanted to come up with something quick, and that's why the fine is only up to $250. So if they get a notice that, like, say, hey, this, you know, HOA overcharged me, I think they're in violation of the law, the real estate division, CIC Ombudsman, can send them a notice saying, like, hey, you need to correct this, and if we don't get a response from you showing it was corrected, right, then we're gonna assume that it wasn't corrected, and you will be guilty, and we will assess a $250 charge.
So we don't have to wait.
No, well, somebody will have to alert the real estate division, yeah. And they'll take care of everything. But the best way to do it is to catch it up front, right? We're hoping this acts as a deterrent so that they do not overcharge your buyers and sellers for the transfer of an HOA, for the demand and the resale package. And I also, in 2019, removed that fee because they used to charge $25 for sending everything electronically,
Yes.
right? And I was just like, you can't charge them for something you're supposed to do because it says you have to give them the option to charge, you know. So we removed that charge too. So there shouldn't be any charges for sending the documents electronically.
So the demand fee, how long do they have for that too? Up to 10 days?
Well, no, the demand fee, they usually turn that around, right?
But
The
I
demand.
need a time frame on that. It's usually 3 to 5 days, but I'm having an issue with the.
There's nothing that says they have to turn the demand around, like, but demands expire, right, because the financials of the, right? So there's no, like, timeline, like, with the resale package, right? They have to turn that around in 10 days, calendar days. There's no timeline for there's no timeline that exists right now for demands.
Okay, but what if they just take their sweet time and spend 5 business days or longer?
If that's a consistent issue, then that's something we're gonna have to.
Sounds
I
like
have
an
to-
amendment.
Yeah. Sounds like a cleanup bill for 2020, right? Yeah. So, and that's actually the first time I've heard that. I've never heard, and usually, so I work, because I'm in the industry, like, I'll get together with the Nevada Association of Realtors, and we'll start talking about very early on, like, what do we need to come in and clean up? They're great to work with, your guys' lobbyist, Rocky Finson. So they're great to work with, so we'll start working on early on, right? Because we only have 120 days to pass a bill, so we'll start working on it like a year and a half before we go into session. But I will bring that up, that's the first time I've heard of it. If it's gonna be an issue, then maybe we need to add timelines. Like,
It
there's,
might be nice to have the verbiage in there so that we really have clarity on it.
yeah, and also, as I've been giving these classes, like if you're out talking to the industry, you hear what the industry problems are, right? So I've heard other problems from other realtors about, like, hey, there should be, you know, maybe the transfer fee should be a sliding scale, because a $185,000 condo and a $1.65 million home have the same transfer fee of $350, right? So they're like, should that be a sliding fee? So all different things, but this is why I enjoy doing this, because then you don't learn the industry issues until you're out speaking to the industry professionals. Okay, our next bill is Assembly Bill 308. It was sponsored by Speaker Jason Frierson, and this was another cleanup bill. So this cleaned up SB 254 from the 2019 session. Does anyone remember that bill? If you've been in the industry for 3 years, it had dealt with landlord-tenant issues. Do you remember that bill? Oh, yeah. You guys all received a lot of emails about it. But and basically what this one did was it just cleaned up some things. So Senate Bill 254 of 2019 added some consumer protections in there. One of them was that a landlord or property manager cannot charge more than 5% in late fees of what periodic rent is, right? So if you charge $1,000 in rent. That bill from 2019 said you can't charge more than a $50 late fee. Well, when that bill passed, a lot of people, and again, remember, every industry, good actors, the majority of them are good actors, small population, bad actors. There was a small population of property managers and landlords who went and said, well, since I'm capped at what I can charge, rent is now considered late on the second. So if you don't pay rent on the first, now all of a sudden you are charged that late fee on day 2. Well, a lot of issues arise with people who are on fixed income, who receive Social Security and disability. That doesn't arrive until day 3, your federal dollars, right? So what Assembly Bill 308 said is you cannot charge a late fee until 3 calendar days from when rent is due, right? So now it gives those people time to get their Social Security and their disability checks, cash them, write their rent payment. One of the other major changes, there was 2 quick changes, right? You cannot charge late fees until 3 days until after rent is due, and then written notice from when rent will increase. So it added 15 days. If you are on a monthly rental, prior to this law, it said you had to give your tenant written notice that rent would increase 45 days from that date. Now it's just saying you have to give them 60 days written notice. If you are in a weekly, the law used to say that you had to give them written notice 15 days in advance of the rent going up. It added 15 days to that. So 30 days written notice that rent's going up. So just a little bit more of a notice. Okay. Our next bill, okay, I get a lot of questions on this one, okay? This is Assembly Bill 363. It was sponsored by Assemblywoman Rochelle Wynn. This deals with short-term rentals, okay? And then again, you guys are all getting copies of these slides. Okay, this deals with short-term rentals. So, it's very important to note that this only applies to counties in Nevada with a population of 700,000 plus people living in it. And to cities within that county that have 25,000 or more people living in it. So basically that's just Clark County in our state, right? We're the only county that has more than 700,000 people. So Assembly Bill 363 only applies to Clark County. And what it does is it requires the people who meet that first bullet point, it requires those local governments to create a policy, so to create ordinances for short-term rentals. And it says in the bill that your policy can't be that we ban short-term rentals. So you actually have to create a policy to regulate them, right? So your policy, can't be, we're not gonna allow them. So right now, Clark County, you all know, right? Clark County, short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBO, they are banned in Clark County, right? There's a couple of cities within Clark County that allow them, Henderson, City of Las Vegas, right? But if you don't live in those, if you don't own property within those jurisdictions, and you are like in my district, right, in Enterprise, then you can't legally have a short-term rental. There's something like over 10,000 illegal short-term rentals in Nevada, and the number was something like, I do have it on here, $45 million in lost revenue to the state, right? Because they're not collecting room taxes on those short-term rentals.
That's lost revenue to the state?
Mm-hmm.
What's the lost revenue to the hotel industry?
Oh, that's true. It's probably a lot, yeah. And so
That's a big number.
And so what this bill does, it put in protections and guardrails for a lot of things. So this bill does not regulate them, okay? That's the most important thing. This bill does not regulate them or make them legal. What this bill does is tell those people who meet that first bullet point, you have to create regulations, ordinances to regulate short-term rentals. So you have to create policies. We are just going to give you some guardrails. Right? We're going to tell you, your policies have to meet some of these bullet points. So 1, Airbnbs or short-term rentals cannot be less than 660 feet from each other. So if Clark County wanted to come in and say, okay, we're going to regulate short-term rentals, you can have them within 250 feet of each other, they can't do that, right? Because the guardrail says it has to be at least 660 feet. So it can be more than 660 feet. So if Clark County says, we're only gonna allow them 1,000 feet apart, fine, right? It's within the guardrails. You cannot have a short-term rental within 2,500 feet of a non-restricted gaming license. To your point, right? Like how much, this was again to protect non-restricted gaming licenses, so casinos, right? Just from lost revenue. And it's gonna require liability. There has to be policies in your regulations to require them to have liability insurance in case someone gets hurt on their property. you have to have occupancy limits of a minimum of 16 people per property, right? So if Clark County, City of Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, Boulder City, you know, if they wanted to come in and say, no, we're gonna drop that to 10. We don't want more than 10 people per property, right? You can, again, you just have to be within these guardrails. It also says, minimum stay requirements. I think this one's interesting. If you are an owner occupied Airbnb, you have to have a minimum 1 night stay requirement. And if you're not owner occupied, you have to have 2 nights. So you can't do less than 1 night requirement. And then also 10% maximum rental rates for condos. So this is this is a good example. So when Clark County comes up with their ordinances, right, whatever it is, Henderson's probably gonna have to change theirs. It's important to note that if anything changes and you are already a legal Airbnb owner, you are gonna be grandfathered in. So if like City of Las Vegas or Henderson have to change some of their city ordinances to meet or be within, you know, in compliance with the county ordinances, then those who already had legal Airbnb, so they already have their permits, are gonna be grandfathered in. And the perfect example is that Henderson has more than 10%. So like in high rise, right? This is just saying in a condo community, let's take a high rise, not more than 10% of the condos in that high rise can be short-term rentals. I don't remember the exact number, but I wanna say Henderson's is like 25%, right? So if some people already had permits in there and they're part of that 25%, they're not gonna have to get rid of their permit, right? It's gonna be for anyone moving forward existing. And yes,
Like some of my clients have, like, some of their properties are 16, they sleep more than 16. So this bill is very difficult for existing Airbnbs.
yeah, I think that was meant to combat some of like the problems they've seen in certain areas, a lot of like.
And then 5 per state, that's also.
Oh, no, that's 5, no, it's not 5 per state, it's 5 per state license, so you can have multiple state licenses. So you're gonna have, your authorizations are the authorizations you get with the local government, and I'll jump back down to that one, but I'm sorry, you had a question in the back?
Yeah, so this 660-foot thing, which we've seen.
It's already City of Las Vegas's, yeah.
Las Vegas, in a high rise, though, that means one.
Oh, but that's why that policy comes at 10% maximum rental rate. That's where that comes in for. So because you can't be within 660 feet in a high rise, right? So that's why they do the 10% to allow for more than one in a condo complex or in a high rise.
Is that an arbitrary number, that's 660, or is there?
I think that's like if I remember watching the hearing, because I didn't actually sit in the committee where this bill was presented, but I went back and I watched the hearing, and again, you guys can too. I enjoy watching them, especially with ones that impact our industry, right? Because you want to understand what the legislative intent was. But 660, from what I remember hearing in the hearing, that's about approximately 1 city block. Yeah.
They have a map that, I'll go ahead and post it in Workplace. There's a specific map that you can go on and look at where all the Airbnbs are, and you can actually measure if you have a client that's looking to do an Airbnb.
And you can just like Google City of Las Vegas or City of Henderson Airbnb, and like it'll take you
Right to the
exact,
map?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and like to everything, to the applications and everything. But so 10% maximum condo rates for condos. You cannot transfer your license upon sale. Max 5 authorizations per state license, so must have each and must be displayed. Okay, so in order to operate Airbnbs, you're gonna have to now get a business license with the state, just like you guys have to have a business license, right?
Yes.
To run your business? Okay, I thought so. Okay, and then, so they're gonna have to go get a business license too, and then once they have a business license, then they can go and apply with that business license for up to 5 permits. So they can go to the City of Las Vegas and get 5 permits, right? They can apply for another state license. I didn't see anything in there that said you could only have 1 state license. It said you could only have 5 authorizations. And authorizations, they use that word, but basically I like to think of authorizations as permits. So like for instance, if I had a state license, I can only have 5 permits or authorizations with the City of Las Vegas for that license, right? And then if I wanted to have another 5 in the City of Las Vegas, I would have to have another business license. Okay, but I did not see anything in there saying you couldn't have more than 1 business license. So they could have 20 permits in the City of Las Vegas. They would just have to have 4 business licenses, if I did my math right. Okay, and then it also, this is a big one, it establishes a schedule of civil penalties. So if they are not in compliance, right? Right now, the problem is there's so many illegal Airbnbs because the city can come and fine you, right? But there's no enforcement behind collecting the fees, right? There's no enforcement behind it. So now they can take a civil route as well.
I heard they were potentially gonna pass a
That bill did not pass.
The one that where they're
It
gonna
was-
put on the back of the tax records?
Yeah, so that I didn't bring it up because it didn't pass, and
Okay.
it was the county tried to pass another bill to help enforce it. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to be able to, if the short-term rental fines that go unpaid, they wanted to add them to the tax roll. And do you guys want to know? Does anybody know why they wanted to do that?
So they get paid.
Nope.
For
Super
lien.
priority lien, yeah, super good because
When
if
they
you
go to sell it, they get their money back.
yeah, because if you don't pay your property taxes, so they could be paying their property taxes, but if you have this unpaid debt on your tax roll, your property tax roll, they can super priority lien, which means they can start the foreclosure process and foreclose on your home. That bill did not pass.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can super priority, right?
They can
Trash can
still,
super
they
priority
still have a
lien.
lien, they can place a lien on the house
Yeah.
as far as the fines,
Clean
but
up the
it's not on the
lien.
tax roll.
It would
Right.
have cleaned up the illegal, yeah.
Which would be great.
Yeah.
Is a super priority lien anything like double secret probation?
I don't know what double secret probation
It's
is.
a bad joke from a
Oh.
movie called Animal House.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
I was like,
in
I
all
don't know.
seriousness, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. And
Super
when I-
priority lien?
Yeah, I mean, either you're a
You
lien
don't have to tell, yeah, I know.
or you're not.
I carried a bill.
What if anything is gonna happen with that? Are we gonna?
I carried a bill last session to remove the right to foreclose for super priority liens. They could still lien and take a priority, but not foreclose. And I swear they hired HOAs hired like every lobbyist available in the country to like kill it. That's hard. It's hard. They're like, no, they're like, we will able. Because I was just like, they should be
They
able.
don't have that in other states.
14 states have it.
14?
14 states. So 14 states have it where where HOAs can lien your property, take priority over anything else listed. So first mortgage, right? And then foreclose. And the problem is that with people who've paid off their home, and I had 3 people call me that same year, and that's the reason I carry the bill. Was like one of them was a broker in our state who owns his house free and clear, has an HOA and a master HOA, didn't update his debit card, right? Because he got a new one with the expiration date, found out he was in foreclosure because Haynes and Krieger called him and was like, hey, we'd like to take you out of trouble. We want to buy your house. And he's like, I own my house free and clear. They're like, no, you're in foreclosure. So he went to go pull records and he's like, oh my God, my HOA's foreclosing on me on a house I own free and clear. And
That's
so,
ridiculous.
I know, but and we all pay a little bit higher interest rates, right? Because we're a higher risk state because banks can lose their asset to an HOA here, right?
They've changed it to where they have to give super,
Oh, yeah,
super, a lot of
2015.
a lot of notice in advance before.
And they have to
foreclosure.
notify
That's a
any lien
super,
holders
super
too.
priority
Super,
lien.
super notice of the super.
Yeah, they
priority.
did. There was a lot of issues in this during our last recession, but what happened with the and sorry, we'll get back to the short-term rental.
Yeah.
But what happened with super priority lien is that in 2015, I think it might have been 13 or 15, it was one of those two, they brought a bill to address that. So now there's tons of notice. They have to mail to the site address and the mailing address. They have to post on the house, the garage. They have to mail notices to the lien holders, to the mortgage company. So if you have a mortgage, because a lot of the times the bank finds out you're late on your HOAs for $300, they're gonna write a check to the HOA so that they don't lose theirs. So there's tons of notice and tons of protections, but still, like, there's some people who don't see the notices, right? Or maybe children come and take the notices off the garage because they're embarrassed or things, right? There's things that happen, and
Yeah.
and if someone is in a little financial situation, sometimes they stop opening mail, which is why I think the posting came in. But, okay, back to this one. So it establishes a schedule of civil penalties. So now there's civil recourse that they can take, right? They can take them to court and sue them for the dollars, but there's caps. It's only up to $10,000. Also, we already got that, it's from $1,000 to $10,000. And then now there's gonna be a new reporting requirement. So the accommodation facilitators, which are Airbnb and VRBO, are gonna have to start giving reports to the city and the county, and then they're gonna have to send it to the State Department of Taxation of everyone who they have on their platform that is a short-term rental, owner. And then it also requires now the accommodation facilitators to collect all the taxes. So has anyone ever rented in like California and Airbnb? We all pay for the taxes, right? I think Nevada's like one of the only states that doesn't collect taxes on short-term rentals right now in like local government or state. So I mean, like if you go on and if you go to like Airbnb and you start looking at different like rentals and stuff, and then you go see like the local government tax and stuff. So it's something that they already do. So, but again, the most important part is that Clark County has until July 1st, 2022 to come up with their regulations. So this doesn't make them legal. It gives the counties the authority to come up with their regulations, their ordinances, well, the counties and the cities with 25,000 people plus, right? So I think Boulder City has more than 25,000 people, and I think North Las Vegas, but I think North Las Vegas already has Airbnb, right? But, so basically Boulder City, they'll have to come up, so the county has to come up with, and any cities that don't allow them right now, that have more than 25,000 residents, will have to come up with regulations to allow them by July 1st, 2022, following these guardrails. There's a good article in the Nevada Independent that breaks it down as well too, but again, there's the bill text, and if you click on that, it'll take you to you so you can watch all of the hearings and stuff. Questions on this one? Okay, so the next one, oh, I carried this one too, Assembly Bill 398, and this was actually one that came during the middle of session. We were already in session, and I had actually had you can only submit bills up to a certain date, right? There's deadlines. And I had submitted a bill saying, you know, deals with the real estate, deals with real property, or the real estate, or deals with real estate or something, because I was gonna work on another bill with the Association of Realtors. We didn't end up doing it. Thank God we had that placeholder there, that bill there, because during the middle of session, I got a call from the Nevada Association of Realtors saying there's a big issue in the industry and we need help fixing it. There was a few agents and brokers who had been sued for the SRPD. And had the brokers like taken, you know, gone to court to fight it, they would have probably won, but if they would have spent a lot more money on attorneys going to court than what it would actually have cost to them to settle with their E&O insurance. Pay your deductible, right, you settle, and then that goes away. Well, what happens is, once you use your insurance policy, everyone knows that your premiums go up, right? And so there was some attorneys who were going around and suing companies saying, you know, like, oh, this was left out on the SRPD or something and things like that. So we just went in to clean it up so that that can't happen anymore. And these are the actual bullet points from the NRS, but what we did was we made it clear in statute now that you cannot fill out the SRPD. It says in there, like, the seller's agent cannot fill out the SRPD, so that you have something to point to too. You already know you can't fill it out, right? Has anyone filled one out? Okay, good answer. Good answer in front of your broker, managing broker, right? But you're not supposed to, you guys already know that, right? But like, in the language, it wasn't clear. And so it says that you can still guide them and talk to them about what should be on there, but that you cannot fill it out. So now you have someone to point to if someone says, can you help me? Like, hey, legally, by law, I can't fill this out, right? You have to fill it out, but I can help answer questions. And then we also added in the protection that you can no longer be sued for something that is not stated on the SRPD or not disclosed after the SRPD is out and like that problem worsens and they're aware of it. So basically, if the seller omits something from the SRPD, you are not liable. You cannot be sued for that any longer, right? Because again, by law, you weren't supposed to fill it out anyway, so you can no longer be sued for that. And if the seller discovers something new, a new defect, or a defect that was already existing that they disclosed that has gotten worse, and they don't disclose it, you can no longer be sued for that. There is complete 100% protection for you guys now. But again,
Thank you, Sandra.
well, it was yours. Thank you. But I think it's really important because somebody asked me, so like, oh, but I always like help them fill it out, and I was like, well, you can't now because now you're kind of putting your client in, you know, if you fill it out and you don't let them fill it out, you're protected now, you can't be sued, but you know, they run the risk of getting sued if you forgot to write something in, right? So, great, so don't fill it out.
I just tell
Don't
them
do
two
it.
copies.
Don't do it, huh? Yeah,
I just tell them print 2 copies. The first one you're gonna mess up, and the second one you'll perfect it. Call me if you have questions.
yeah. And they will, they're like, well, what do I have to write on there, right?
Yeah.
What everything, disclose everything, right? Okay, this is the next one. So I get most questions on Assembly Bill 363, which is the short-term rental, and on Assembly Bill 486, which is sponsored by Assemblyman Steve Yeager. This is a glide path to the end of the eviction moratorium. That's what this was created for, right? It was supposed to be a glide path to help ease into the end of the eviction moratorium. I loved this bill for the very first bullet point. We finally created a landlord assistance program. I was just like, I know, I love this bill when it came out. There was a lot, $360 million to be exact, in rental assistance programs for tenants, right? But if a tenant did not apply, or they were voiding their landlord, right, or they did not qualify, there was no assistance for landlords. And so what this did was it took $5 million from the ARP money to start a landlord assistance program. So in order to qualify for this, and there is caveats to this, okay? In order to qualify for this, you have to be a small landlord, meaning you have to have rental income less than $4 million. So if you make $4 million, you do not qualify.
4 million a year?
$4 million a year in rental income. Okay, it will pay 100% of back rent. So if you are a landlord today who has still not received rent from March 2020, it will pay 100% of the back rent.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, that's great, I know. But the caveat is, from when you receive the check, you have 90 days, you have to give that tenant 90 days before they can move out. So if you can't evict them for 90 days. But once you receive the assistance, right, you have to tell them this is your move out day. On day 91, I can evict you, you know, so.
Continue, I'll ask
Okay,
questions after.
but, okay, so that's, I just like to start with that part, but that's not the glide way into the eviction moratorium, the rest of it is, right? And so what the glide path did was, it created the bullet points underneath, saying, we're gonna marry, yes.
I'm sorry, what's the glide path?
Oh, I just call that it's just like a glide, it's like a glide way, like
Okay,
a glide
yeah, I
into
just-
it.
alright.
I just use that word, like, it's just a word I use.
It's nice.
Okay, but it's just like it's like we're gliding into the eviction moratorium, so that's just, I didn't know how else to explain it, right, but it's basically easing into the eviction moratorium, the end of it. And so what this did was it says, it's gonna marry all of the rental assistance. In the entire state, we've received $360 million for the entire state in rental assistance program. There is still a ton of money out there, a ton of money. And it's hard to get the information out because when you get dollars, federal dollars, Treasury guidelines usually say this much percentage of it has to be used in assistance. You can't use it to like market, you can't use it, right? It's almost 100% of the time direct assistance, right? And so what it says, if you are filing an eviction notice, you now have to, with that eviction notice, also give them information on the eviction mediation program and on the rental assistance programs. So any landlord who files an eviction has to also give those notices. If a tenant responds to an eviction notice, right, the key there is a tenant has to respond to the eviction notice. In Nevada, only about 25% of tenants who receive eviction notices actually do. But if they respond to an eviction notice, when they respond, when the judge receives that, they will set that court date out 30 days in advance, because during those 30 days, they have to go to mediation now. So it's mirroring the programs, because during mediation, what they want to do is figure out, does this tenant have an active rental assistance application on file, right? Because if they're actively trying to apply for rental assistance, then let's wait till we receive a determination before we can evict them, right? Because then if they don't qualify, and you don't qualify for rental assistance, then you can be granted your eviction, right? Or if they haven't applied yet because they didn't know about the program, right? Well, then let's send them through the application process to see if they qualify for rental assistance, and then if they do, there, right? But there is protections in there for the landlords as well, right? It's just saying, like, if a tenant refuses to cooperate, right? They submitted an application just to submit one, but they're not showing, they're not responding to the calls to send like proof of stuff, then that would waive, right? That a stay of eviction. Or if a tenant refuses to apply for rental assistance, right? That would waive that stay of eviction. So there are protections for the landlords in there. And then also, if you go through the mediation program, that tenant doesn't qualify for rental assistance, then they will connect the landlord with the landlord rental assistance program.
So, I had a situation recently where I contacted the For Rent by Owner list and started letting people know about the CHAP program, and I got quite a bit of response. And it was a handful of tenants that, like you said, they're not applying because they're using the moratorium as an excuse not to pay. It's not that they can't pay. There's a lot of people that can't pay.
Yeah.
But then there's some bad actors that
Yeah.
don't want to pay, and they're using the eviction process, and if they were to apply, it would show that they can qualify. That they don't qualify because they could have
They're still
paid
working.
rent. So this program is basically saying for those people, if they're refusing, the landlords are still gonna get some sort of assistance, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
so the landlords will get assistance if they meet, and I'll take you guys, that's actually the next slide,
Okay.
where the landlords can go and apply, and they have to answer a series of questions. And so, like, sometimes if the tenant's not responding, you don't know why they're not paying, right? But if they refuse to respond, then the landlord would be eligible, like if it's not.
Gotcha.
Okay, but again, this just creates a gateway, thank you, into the end of the moratorium, so that courts aren't bombarded with eviction notices, and so that like everyone who's late isn't evicted at the same time, if there are possibilities where they can remain in their home with assistance. Because again, there's $360 million in rental assistance in our state. We need to get that money into the hands of the people who need it. So,
And
okay.
Sandra, in the
Mhm.
CHAPS program, I believe it's $100,000 is in that program, or is
Oh,
it more than that?
it's $360 million total in the state. So the city got money, the county got money, and the state got money, right? So there's tons of money that are available.
And-
There's tons of pots.
And I'm sorry, what,
No, no, no.
what
Huh?
is,
Oh,
oh, your
I should have
computer
plugged it
died?
in.
You were low, yeah.
Thank you.
What is the,
Answer your questions while I plug it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer questions. Does anyone have questions?
I have a question. Do you
Okay.
still have to own the property as a landlord to be able to receive the funds and back rent?
Yes, and you couldn't have already, so I called and asked this too, because one of the times I taught this class, someone had a great question and said, I've already evicted my tenant
Yeah.
because they didn't pay, and they, and so no, because the goal of the program, of the Gateway Bill, is to try to keep people in their homes, right? Try to keep tenants in their homes. So if you've already evicted them, you're not gonna get money. But you guys, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, this is great material for you to use on your social media platforms without giving the information, right? So like with this one that we're talking about right now, I would go on and I would post like, hey, where are my investors at with rental properties in Nevada? Call me about the new landlord assistance program, right? So like start advertising that, so just to kind of drive conversations with people in the industry. Thank you. And then also with the short-term rental law, right? Like, hey, where are my investors at? You know, assembly bill or new bill that just passed in Nevada that will allow for short-term rentals in previously in places where it was previously illegal, right? Just things like that. Like use it to drum up business. Don't go out there and post all the information, right? Be the source so that people call you for the information. Okay, let's get. Is it up?
it's coming. So, yeah, that
okay.
happened with my client. She had the person wouldn't apply for rental assistance because she knew she was playing the game. She then was trying to, get her to leave and evict. Have you guys been to Zoom court? It's fun, and you don't have to go to court.
You don't have to get your
Just go to Zoom court, and you're sitting there for an hour, and the judge said, Mr. May, you've been sitting there for an hour. Do you want to add anything? I go, yeah, I don't know why we're here, Your Honor, because she's already left. He's like, what? He goes, she already left. I have the photos. Here they are. Can I share my screen? And I shared the screen, showed him the video. He's like, oh, why have we been talking this for the last hour? I go, well, I didn't want to answer or say anything until you called on me. So finally, I showed him the photos, showed him the video. He's like, good news, bad news. You're not gonna get an eviction on your record, but you're not gonna be able to come back in and get anything out of there until you call Mr. May, so.
Yeah. Well,
But she was trying to get her to apply, and she was gonna keep her in there, but she knew that she wasn't gonna, be able to help her get the money, so she left.
well, those people are in trouble because
Like,
again,
left
you
the
guys.
house or left the
She
state?
left the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, the eviction moratorium just put a stay on evictions and it waived some late fees, but the eviction moratorium never, ever, ever waived rent that's due. So those landlords can go and sue for rent that's owed, and once you sue, you can garnish and stuff. So that's why it's important to get the rental assistance out there. Just because you've been evicted doesn't mean you don't owe your rent.
Right.
So and people just don't think that, right? But you still owe your rent. You're still responsible for that money. So even if someone has been evicted or they're gonna go, I'm planning on leaving anyways, it's important that they apply for the rental assistance to pay what they owe in the past before they leave or get evicted, because they still owe that. And a landlord, if they choose to, can go back and sue for rents owed.
And Sandra, I know this is a tough subject, but what is the time frame? I mean, what's going on? Why isn't the money being disseminated?
It was, they had a backlog. So the county, so there was a few rental assistance programs. There was one that was created before CHAP, and then CHAP worked so well, so everyone was being funneled that way. But when the new money came in, they've actually expanded it. And so the backlog has been in Clark County. The other counties, like with the Washoe County and then rural areas, it's been going fine. Clark County was backed up, so they did hire more people, something like, I think there's 3 nonprofits who are now doing intake for them. and then also like 300 people like moving through applications. So it
They're
shouldn't.
catching up now.
Yeah, so it shouldn't take that long. But that's why that 30 days to stay on the eviction to allow them time to go to mediation and get an application in and get a determination on whether they're eligible or not for rental assistance.
And-
Also, there's go ahead.
Is the moratorium, it was July 31st, is it extended?
Yeah, they extended it to October 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
October 2nd sounds like a random day, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's October 2nd.
Just one more question on the request for assistance. Is it simply through the programs that you're talking about, or is it that they can apply for assistance anywhere? Cause I had a landlord who said he was denied because a tenant applied for assistance through his church.
No, well, if they got the money, right? If they got the money to pay their rent, then the landlord shouldn't, yeah.
It just got held up for like,
Oh.
70 days.
Yeah, you can't, like, a landlord can't go, and like, if his tenant's applying for assistance, like through CHAP or something, right? And then he can't go and apply for the landlord rental assistance program. There has to be a determination first on the rental assistance, because it's a bigger pot of money, it's 360 million.
But it was a tenant manipulating the system because they kept throwing out applications to all these places that weren't government ran. So my question is that can that
That's a-
eviction be stayed because they went and applied at 14 different churches?
Yeah, and I think when this was created, it has to be the rental assistance, like this program, right? So like if that landlord, and that's a great question for Homeings Nevada. Homeings Nevada is a state nonprofit that's running this, right? But like, that would be a great question for them, like, hey, like, well, and actually they can go and apply, the landlord can go and apply, and then they'll get in contact with someone. But like, if that landlord would go to file the eviction notice, right? And the tenant answered it, showing that they had applied, they would have had to apply for like this rental assistance, not like through their church. And if they hadn't applied through it, then the mediator would say like, okay, let's take your information for this, for CHAP, right? And then if they needed information like backup documentation, follow-up documentation, and that renter wasn't giving it to them, like they were, then the
And that's
eviction.
the piece that didn't happen, and it was complete
Yeah.
tenant manipulation.
There is
and it
protections.
Strung them out, okay.
Yeah, there is protections built in for that. Like if a tenant has an application in but isn't actually applying, right? There is protections, and at that point, that landlord would probably be eligible for the landlord assistance program. Also, there is enforcement mechanisms for landlord who received rental assistance and then still evict people. So they can get, the county or the local government can come back and sue and try to collect that rent. So like if you weren't supposed to evict someone because you took rental assistance and then you evicted them anyways, right? And then also it doesn't apply, the stay on evictions doesn't apply to commercial properties, and it doesn't apply to like nuisance cases. So if someone's being evicted for a nuisance, then they can still get evicted. There's no stay on that. And then also all the protections in this bill, the assistance expires on June 5th, 2023, or when there is no more money available in the program. Okay, but I want to show you guys this. Oh, I didn't put it in here? Did I not update it? Hold on. Oh, this is let me get the updated slide, hold on.
Would you add to that end of lease term as well?
I'm sorry?
Would you add to that end of lease term as well? Because some people think that you can't, if they have a year's lease, that this moratorium says that you have to extend beyond the lease.
No, that's,
So, okay.
Okay.
Point of clarification.
let me see, let
The lease
me,
is updated.
Once the
Open
lease is
it.
up, the lease is
They
up.
need to move.
Yeah, yeah.
so let's go down, so here we go, this is okay. So this one, so this is the website. So Homeings Nevada created this website where you can go and apply. It's therenterconnect.org.
TheRenterConnect.org.
And when you go there, it'll ask you, are you a renter? Are you a landlord? Are you a mediator? And then if they click on landlord, it brings them here. Yeah, therenterconnect.org. Okay,
It's so funny, Sandra. HomeMeansNevada.org. HomeMeansNevada.com is getting a lot of play because it's a clothing store that is right next to HomeMeansNevada.org. They're gonna get a lot of money from just being.
well, they created an entire different portal for this,
Okay,
so the Renter Connect.
RenterConnect.org.
Mhm.
Wow.
Okay, and then this is actually the last bill we're gonna cover. So Senate Bill 186. I just threw this one in here because I love this bill, but this one deals with HOAs to try to modernize HOAs.
Yay.
Right? And so it's a start, okay? It's a start. But basically what it says is HOAs with 150 units or more must have online portals now. They have to have online portals where people can go and pay electronically, not by check. and have all documents available to them online. So they have to. It started off as 100, and then they came and they're like, no, 150. They're like, they fought us really hard. They're like, we want 150. Well, they fought Senator Spearman really hard. This bill was sponsored by Senator Spearman. She did a great job with this bill. Because there was a lot of pushback from different people in the industry, in the HOA industry, about some of the provisions of the bill. And you'll see why when we get to the bottom. But they have to have online portals now. It requires, they did not like this part, it requires all notices to be sent by mail and email unless a homeowner opts out. So right now, when this bill goes into effect, all HOAs will now have to send all notices by mail and by email unless the homeowner opts out, right? And so the homeowner can just, you can send them one document that says you prefer to receive mail or email, right? And once they do that, you can send it an email. Then you only have to send emails or you only have to send paper documents. And so they did not like that. They just thought that was, they're like, we shouldn't be forced to. And I'm like, well, no, right now, most HOAs ask, you want your documents electronic or you want them by mail, right? You can't ask for both, but like if some people want to receive both, then they should be able to receive both. Also, this is the part, it says HOA foreclosures can no longer be purchased by anyone involved in the foreclosure or related by 3 degrees of consanguinity. Meaning, if I am on the HOA board and I decided that we are gonna foreclose on our neighbor's house because they have not paid their HOA dues and it's been 6 months, right? And we go to the foreclosure, my husband can't go and bid on that property, right? Or anyone within 3 degrees, yeah, or your child, yeah.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon does
yeah.
apply.
Yeah.
But 3 degrees.
3 degrees
doesn't.
does not, 6
Okay.
degrees, right?
Okay.
But, okay, also, and this is my favorite
Oh,
part, I
yes.
really like this
Those
one.
things, that's a good
An
one.
HOA can no longer own the collection company or the tow company that it uses for HOA collections and for towing. Because actually, I didn't realize, all HOA companies, HOA management companies also own an HOA collection company. And so, obviously that bill from 2015 said you cannot send a homeowner to collection after, I think it's 3 months, right? 3 months or 4 months, one of those two, it's one of those two, right? But like if you're on a board, right? Or if you're an HOA management company, there's no incentive, I would say, to work with a homeowner, right? You wanna send that person right away to your collection company. So now it says you can still own a collection company, but any of the HOAs that you manage, that your HOA management company manages, cannot be sent to a collection company that you manage. Also, if you own a towing company, you cannot have that same towing company be the towing company that comes and tows houses out of your association. So, I just broke it. Yeah. So that was Senate Bill 186. And then last, I just want to cover this really quick. Paul, SB 276, you will all see a $15 fee on your issuances and renewals because the real estate division is modernizing their technology, which is great. So I know I was talking to Sharaf from the real estate division, and he was telling me that like one of the first things they want to modernize is like the CE programs. You guys still have to carry your paper proof that you attended a CE. So that's going to be, I think, one of the first things that gets modernized. But important right here. This just happened last month at our interim finance committee meeting. In addition to the $2.7 billion that the state of Nevada got in ARP money, the state of Nevada is getting $121 million, okay, in mortgage assistance dollars. So there's been tons of money, right? $360 million in rental assistance, but now there's gonna be assistance for homeowners too. There's tons of homeowners who are on forbearance. There's tons of homeowners who are in foreclosure or on delinquent or in a delinquent state with their mortgage because of COVID-19. This is very similar to the I think it was 2011 or 12 when we received the $200 million in hardest hit funds dollars, right? The same nonprofit, NAHAC, NAHAC.org, the same nonprofit, NAHAC, who administered the hardest hit funds, is going to administer this new mortgage assistance dollars, right? And they're going to, from what I've heard, because when they were testifying in front of us at the interim finance committee, because they have to request approval to receive the money from us, and so they were requesting approval to receive the first pot of money to get the program started, which was a $12.1 million. And we were asking, what kind of programs do you guys think you're gonna create with this money, right? And Treasury had given them some guidelines, and it sounds like they're gonna be very similar programs to the hardest hit funds, which are unemployment assistance, and not direct unemployment assistance, it's UMAP, Unemployment Mortgage Assistance Program. And what they will do is, while that person is unemployed, right, because of COVID, but they have to be rehirable, that's how the hardest hit funds work, like they can't just be permanently unemployed or things like that, right? They will make their mortgage payment for them every single month while they are unemployed. They are also gonna create the RMAP, the Reinstatement Mortgage Assistance Program, which will give homeowners money to reinstate their mortgages. So
How
here for
much per mortgage holder?
we don't know. I think last, and I might be making this number up, I remember we asked, and I actually might have it. I think it was something like 6,000 plus families were helped with the hardest hit funds money. And so I don't think, like with the unemployment, there's no cap, right? Like as long as you're unemployed, they will be making your mortgage payment for you. If you need to cure a forbearance, if you have a big balloon payment due, they will pay that off. If you are in foreclosure, they will pull you out of foreclosure, they will reinstate you. And I just followed up with them because when I had created this, the last time I taught this class, we didn't have a date yet, but they said the application's gonna go live on September 27th.
Wow, that's huge.
It's huge because everyone thought all these homes were gonna hit the market, right? But like, of course we knew there was gonna be assistance when ARP came out for homeowners. There was assistance for tenants, we have to give assistance to homeowners too. And if there's money left over, because there was money left over with the hardest hit funds or with National Mortgage Settlement, one of those two, and it ended up converting into down payment assistance dollars, right? So hopefully the same thing happens with this. If there is dollars left over, then they turn it into down payment assistance. But it's gonna go from what they said to help these things. This is what Treasury guidelines say. The money has to be used for homeowner mortgage delinquencies, defaults, foreclosures, reinstatements. Treasury also said it could be used for interest rate and principal reductions, assistance for paying utilities, HOA, homeowners insurance, property taxes, homeowner counseling, budgeting counseling, those things.
That's huge.
I know, that's huge. Yes.
Going back to what you were talking about before for the renters.
Yes.
Does that affect their credit, you know?
Oh, that's a great question for like an evictions attorney. I mean, the rental assistance, I know that there was protections, I believe there was protections put in place saying that the landlords can't report them to the credit bureaus, right, if they're
I'm
late
asking
on.
if they're receiving this money, is it gonna show on their credit adversely in any way?
That's a great question for the program for CHAP. I don't know. I've never heard of it, and I don't think it will. I don't think Clark County's gonna go and report it to the credit bureau, but I can't say like 100% certain. But I mean, I would assume, I don't think that Clark County would, right, who they administer the CHAP program. Yeah, I don't.
Costs money to report. It costs them money to report it.
Oh, then probably not. then for sure probably not if they have to report
What's
it.
your email address then?
It's which email?
What's your email address? We don't have a business card. to get you
Oh.
at once.
Yes.
Where can we hit you up at?
Right here. That was my last slide, guys, so there you go. So there's my
I have a
contact.
question on
I
the-
do need to collect business cards so I can email you guys the slides, so.
The
Absolutely.
information you just talked, it's not a bill, it's just an update.
No, that's not a bill, that's just, federal dollars coming into our state.
Okay.
It's assistance dollars, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody, put your hand a WFG national title.
Yes.
That's
I'll
awesome.
let you take over.
I just wanted to share something real quick with you guys, something that you could implement based upon all this fantastic knowledge. I'm just gonna yeah. You know, I was so excited when Sandra was gonna share this information because it's valuable information that you can pass along to your clients. And here's an example. I've been on the for sale rent by owner train for a while, contacting for rent by owners to let them know that there's these type of programs available. I actually have a listing right now as a result of it. I have about 4 or 5 for rent by owners that are interested in, you know, learning about the program because, you know, we're the conduits, we're the information givers. If you add value to these folks that are having problems with their tenants, some of these owners own 4, 5, 6, 10 rentals. So imagine if you can just reach out. So here's the deal. You reach out to Sandra Howdeggy. If you live in Mountain's Edge, if you live in Southern Highlands, wherever you live, get a geo farm and start calling and contacting the for rent by owners. How do you get the for rent by owner list? You call Sandra Howdigi with WFG National Title. She will give you a geo farm of non-owner occupied homes. She'll be able to scrub the list and potentially give you
Cell phones and emails.
cell phones and emails to reach out to them. So I have a list of for rent by owners, and what I do is I say in a Sly broadcast, hi, this is Paul May with the May team of eXp Realty, and the reason for my call is I'm calling around for landlords and tenants to let them know that there is, I was saying $100 million, but there's $360 million.
That was in the state, yeah.
There's $360 million available to help landlords receive the rent money and tenants to pay the rent money to their landlords. Just give me a call or go to my website at mayteamlasvegas.com and click the Clark County Cares Housing Assistance info link. When they click this link, then they register and they put in their email address, and then you capture them as a lead, or a lot of times they're calling me. But once they register, then it pops them over to a landing page like this. So you can create landing pages, you can create you can create a link on your KV Core site, whatever you want to create. You want to call them, text them, tell them to go to your site, or give them a call, give us a call so we can give you the information. And then once they've registered and I receive their information, then I send them over to this landing page, and boom, I went ahead and updated what Sandra just told me about, which is the renterconnect.org, so that they can then go to this site as a landlord and get the information they need to get the tenant funds. So just think about, implying all of this information about, hey, isn't it cool that we now know there's a cap to these HOA fees? If you're looking at the settlement statement and they're way above what we just learned, you can give that value back to your client. Say, hey, no, you're not paying this. We're gonna go ahead and, contact the HOA and let them know that they're not in compliance. Utilize these tools as far as value giving back to your clients, and get the lists that you need from Sandra. Okay,
Yeah,
guys?
I know I did like legislative update, I was wearing my other hat, but again, whatever you guys need on the marketing side too, with my WFG hat, know that I can help with tons of stuff. Obviously, the basics that you get, right? Property profiles, lien summaries, net sheet, apps and stuff. But when it comes to like social media, if you guys need social media content, if you guys need help creating anything, whether it's content for social media or flyers or ads. I know we talked about Facebook ads and stuff, but if you're a newer agent and you need to start filling your pipeline, Facebook ads are a great way to lead generate and capture leads, because the cost per lead is like anywhere from $1.60 to $2.60 a lead, right? So it's a great way to start filling your pipeline to lead generate. So if you need help running ads, let me know. If you need help with YouTube, creating a YouTube channel, or creating a framework for how to be successful on YouTube, let me know. And Instagram, whatever you guys need, let me know. Know that I can also provide cell phone farms, email farms. I can teach you guys how to digitally farm a community, because if you guys are ordering email forms from me, do not email blast from your email address. You will get blacklisted, right? You will get marked as spam. Your email will start going into people's junk folder when you send regular emails. You have to use redirect services like Constant Contact and MailChimp that give people the opportunity to unsubscribe from the bottom, right? Those federal ICANN spam laws of 2006, you guys have to follow those. And so there's great ways I can help you guys create the HTML templates on them so that it looks nice, right? You can embed video into them, so it's great. So know that I can help with all of that stuff as well.
Awesome. Let's give Sandra a hand. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming, everybody. Spencer, did you want to say anything?